It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Rav and Rebbitzin Rosenblum. We're here in your beautiful apartment in Hanof, and I have to say from the onset that your children and grandchildren, I have the great zchut, the great honor that they're patients of mine. And I think your family is one of the most incredible families, and I'm just so honored to be here tonight. So Rav, if you could tell us a little bit about your background, coming from America, coming to South Africa, and then Rebbitzin, you'll mention a little bit about your family as well.
The only picture that we have of my parents, where is it? It's in here. The only picture we have.
Okay,
You
so
said you
just
wanted
one-
pictures.
Okay, but Rav, just if you could mention about your
I
parents.
was born in the Bronx.
Can I ask when?
Yeah. Before Mrs. Shellac was born in
November 1942.
42. 42. That makes me, when I grow up, and I'm not getting old, I'm just losing my youth, you know. Born in the Bronx of yesteryear had over 600,000 Jews, not today. And we weren't brought up like today's kids. We played in the street, we played rough and tough, you know. I went to school until the 7th grade in the Bronx, then I started...
Which school did you go to? It was...
Salanta Yeshiva, they're still around in Riverdale today, and Zichar Moshe, that was Yerucham Gerelik. And then from the 8th grade on, I started traveling to Torah Das in Williamsburg. From the 8th grade on, there was around an hour travel in those days, and back and forth. And then...
Can I ask, Rab, who were your Rabbonim in Torah Das?
In Torah Das, I remember Rav Palm. I wasn't a student of Rav Palm, but I remember Rav Gedalia Shul well. I remember Rav Yankov Kamenetsky well. I had Rav Isby. The ones that we saw in Torah Das in high school, each and every one of them should have been Rosh Yeshivas in their own right. There were giants talking Tajzulikis that were more interested in the basketball court than the Gemara. Torah Das was the mother yeshiva of America, you know, with Wilhelm and Isby, and they were the pioneers of orthodoxy in America. And we see today the tremendous revival. I have grandchildren in Torah Das of today. Tremendous revival that's beyond anyone's dream. The only one that would have thought about today's Torah revival was someone that was on drugs or someone that was a prophet. But it's definitely way above any logical resurrection. But that's the secret of our being. And then I took after that, I went to St. Louis. Matter of fact, in this building, there's a Rabbi Axelrod. He was Rosh Yeshiva in St. Louis after my time. And from there, I went to Tiferes Yisrael, to Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. I got speaking from Rabbi Moshe Feinstein. And I had a job. I went to university at night, which was quite the norm then. I went to a graduate school in Fairfield, which gave us credit because it was a Jesuit-sponsored school, so we got credit for the yeshiva learning. And
what did you study? What did you study at the university?
Education.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a qualified nursery school teacher. There's a story in that also, you know. And then I remember, like today, my mother, should rest in peace, says there's a big Cadillac outside the house bumping the horn. Says, what's going to do with this? She thinks that there were some of my guys, some of my friends. And I went down there, and it was. And they were going to Chicago to the wedding of Eisenberg, right. To the wedding of Eisenberg. Would you come along? I said, yeah, sure. We drove to Chicago, New York to Chicago. You'd have to drive all day. And my wife's sister was the same age as her mother.
Because it was the
because of the first marriage. And his name was Rabbi Neiman, who well known in Chicago and other areas. He was a survivor of the Mir. You see his picture in some of the Mir books, and these guys stood in their house. But I checked into the Statler Hilton, primarily known as the YMCA.
For $5 a night.
That I don't remember.
Yeah,
It wasn't no $5 a night. Anyway, and so went to the wedding, and the next day, Lyman had a son-in-law.
No, that night. That night, my nephew, who was, of course, like 10 years older than me, that was Chaitch's son-in-law, married to...
Nat Hirschfeld.
He was the Rosh Hashiva in St. Louis, and he said, Jeanette, come here. I want to introduce you to a friend of mine.
And then she said she came from South Africa, had common, what I know about South Africa.
So he said
you ever have David Hollander, which I knew very well. David Hollander used to come to the house. He lived around the block from us, Rabbi David Hollander.
He came to South Africa many times.
That's right. He was
I remember when he came.
Tanzig, bro, used to bring him out. Anyway, the Untersesure, the bottom line is, I went back to my hotel, and the next day I heard that Naftali Herschel driving back to St. Louis. I know a lot of people in St. Louis even to this day. I said, "You'll drive me?" He said, "Fine." So he said, "Where?" I went to the Telz Yeshiva in Chicago. He said, "So pick me up from the Telz Yeshiva." Fine. Went to Telz Yeshiva. And the guy's walking around eventually, "Who's Rosenblum?" "I'm Rosenblum." Says Naftali Hirschfeld, walk 1 block left, 1 block right, and you'll be in Rabbi Neiman's house. And that I did. I sat there waiting for my ride back, and Jeanette walked in. We got to talk. Before I knew it, those guys were gone. They were gone. Naftali Hirschfeld and what's his name? Jack Cohn. Jack Cohn, who was rabbi of in Beverly Hills. Anyway, what do? I mean, here I am, stuck. Said, "You got nothing to do?" "I have nothing to do. Let's do it. Let's do nothing together." And went downtown Chicago. And then I brought her back. I went back to the hotel the next day, went out again. And before I knew it, in my day today, I wouldn't know, it was after 12, and the trains weren't going after 12 in Chicago to downtown. They lived in the suburbs someplace. And so what did I do? So I went down to the basement of their home. I went to sleep. I didn't ask any questions. In the morning I got up. "Hey, who's here?" "I'm here. I came for breakfast." And it didn't take long. We got engaged, and
5 days later.
And then you got engaged, you got married, and then I had a little position in the Bronx. Then we went to Schenectady, New York. Schenectady then, in those days, like then I don't know, is GE Research and Development in Schenectady, Union College in Schenectady. And then we decided, my wife's mother wasn't well, we decided let's go to South Africa. She went to South Africa.
Rob, just before you continue, so you have a picture of the chasana,
yeah, right.
and you have...
Now I'll just show you of his brothers.
With your parents?
Yeah, with your parents. Okay, so I'll just show you. There is a picture with his parents.
We weren't the picture.
Yeah, that's his parents.
We weren't the picture family.
That's his parents.
So, Rob, can I ask you, can you tell us a little bit about your parents? Where did they come from?
My father was, he was a Lomsha. He was known in the yeshiva world, Yankel Lomsha. But he learned in the Vardak. I don't know if you're in the Vardak. You know, I happened to be in New York. I didn't know he was in a hospital when he passed away. He passed away in America, but he lived in the Vardak. He wasn't at all affected by Western culture at all. Not at all. He didn't integrate it whatsoever. Matter of fact, his Leviat and Rabbi Yaakov The Nevadika, he was maspid him. And my mother came from Ostrova. Now, Ostrova was in Ostrova there was the Don Plotsky lived in Ostrova. You're getting me all. I have a son-in-law, Jacobowitz, Moshe Jacobowitz. Moshe Jacobowitz learns together with Reb David.
Rabbi David.
Rabbi
David, and he's Rabbi David. That's his name.
Yeah, Rabbi David, who's the son-in-law of the late Rav Hutner. His Canada, his wife was.
She just was with terrorists just a couple of months ago.
He's a man, Canada, probably 90 there, and they're study partners. So he came to the wedding in South Africa, and he's sitting at my table.
And he made the shidduch of our daughter, him and Rebbitzin David. He had the boy, Moshe, and...
Rebbitzin David is known as Brewer, well known. So she was the principal of BJJ for who knows how many years. And he started telling a story about Don Plotsky. My mother didn't look Jewish, and she spoke English. She didn't speak Yenglish.
No, they both got very excited because they were talking about the same shtetl.
No, so she said, what are you telling me stories for? No one speaks to Yonason David that way, except for me. Anyway, and so they stood outside, and she remembers all the children. They skipped rope together, and he told me numerous times here that he didn't think anyone would walk on the face of the earth that knew him personally and the family besides his late father-in-law. Said it was worth coming to South Africa. But that's an interesting thing that I have a sister here, married to Dr. Sandler. Anyway, so I was with a sister, and she was listening to the Rabbi Rosenblum in Bnei Brak. Well known, he had a very popular...
But no relation.
No related. Nor is Jonathan related either. And said, that's our story. I said, what do you mean?
How did your father come to America?
Okay.
His mother went
my mother, okay, then I'll give you the story.
Just before the war.
Now, I'll give you the story from the very beginning that I first, not long ago, heard it from my sister. They said, that's our story. My grandparents, who I didn't know, my mother's father, went to America to make a few dollars. He came back, we figured it must be 1928, 1929, the Depression. I think we were told that he had $2,000, which was a lot of money then. And he gave it out. He figured he'll make a living from the return. But like many monies, it went one way and forgot to come back. So what's he have to do now? He has to go back to America to make a few dollars. He took my two sons, an uncle Shlomo and Nathan, with him, and they walked up to America. My mother was a young girl, and one day she decided, we don't know the details, she took her mother, and she got on a boat and went to America. She went to America. So interesting, Baruch Hashem, that money didn't come back. Because if it would come back, right, she came to America in the 30s, and she wanted to marry Yeshiva Bacha, so she went back to Europe.
In the 30s, she went back?
Yeah, we figured 38 maybe, something like that. We don't know exactly dates. And she married my father. My mother was an American citizen, so he had rights, I don't know to go back to America. And he was he was a real yeshiva bacher. So he went to the American embassy, consul, whatever, to get his passport. Every time they told him it's not available. But his father, we don't know what he did. His father was a businessman. He said, you don't understand. Put a few dollars on the table. He didn't think that way. He put some money on the table, and all of a sudden, from under the counter appeared his passport. So he had three brothers that came to Israel before the war, and everyone else got got killed. As a matter of fact, there's a Chaim Shapiro. Chaim Shapiro wrote a well-known book, Go My Son. And he also wrote a book, Once Upon a Shtetl.
Yeah.
Once Upon a Shtetl has Rosenblum stories because he was a Lomsha, Chaim Shapiro. You know, and that was it. My father was...
Where did your father learn? Where did your father learn?
Where did he learn?
He learned in Lomza, he learned in Radin, and he learned in Nevada.
So he was close with the Chofetz Chaim?
Yeah, sure. He was in the time of Chofetz Chaim. The story in that whole story. He didn't tell any stories. They didn't tell any stories. You know, very little about his brothers. Matter of fact, Suval Karov, Reb
But
David.
they didn't ask. But
Reb David,
I used to ask.
we didn't ask, and they didn't talk. I don't think that whole generation spoke too much. You know, Reb David Lipschitz, who was known as the Suval Karov, once told my brother that in Suvalk, the Sheikhet was Rosenblum, a brother of my father, but he never said anything he never told us any of these things. You know, they didn't talk, and we were too foolish not to ask. I think that whole generation didn't talk too much.
Do you know how your parents met? Who made the shidduch? Or
No, I don't know. No, I have no idea who was the Masada Kedushin. I have no idea. The only thing I know who was my wife's Masada Kedushin. He never forgave him. But Moshe Feinstein was our Masada Kedushin.
So we have the picture, and you have the original picture.
Yeah, you want the original picture. Yeah, so.
And that's
this is Yankel Naidman.
If you can just show.
Wait, they brought me to the chuppah.
And how many siblings?
I have 2 brothers and a sister. One brother has passed away, and I have a sister that's been living here for many, many years. Husband is Dr. Shmuel Sandler. He was dean of Bar Ilan. He wrote many, many books. I haven't read any of them. And as a matter of fact, he traveled to the States addressing universities. He told me many years ago. At one time, he was the only show in town, but today, unfortunately, the Muslims are there before him, and they're very good at it.
This is the picture.
This is the original picture.
That's the original picture.
Here's a Reb Moshe Feinstein. Yeah. And Reb, you remember Reb Moshe?
Sure, I do.
And I have to ask you.
And with David, we were very, matter of fact, personal story, David Aronowitz, the book shop guy. And,
David, I know very well.
Yeah, sure, I remember them. I remember Ruben Feinstein also. That's the only sole surviving son.
Mm.
And Rab, the other Rabbonim that you... Bunim, and if you could mention a bit of the other Rabbonim, because
I remember Reb Yankov coming, that's here, Mike Tress, then they had Pesach Krohn, the writer. Also, he comes from that family, his father, mother, and a lot of the pioneers of Torah life, which unfortunately today's yeshiva guys don't know history, which they're being deprived of it. And because they take it wasn't the way it is today. 60 and 70 years ago, no one would have dreamt about the resurrection of Torah. I mean, there are more. I remember Lakewood, there were 200 students, if not less. Today, there are a few thousand. I mean, in the Mir Yeshiva here, there are more students than all the yeshivas of Lithuania combined. People don't realize that. And look, we have a wonderful, unfortunately, there are less and less people eating matzah, but there are more and more people eating hand matzah. I remember when Trafer restaurants in New York, Jack Dempsey, the heavyweight fighter, on Pesach, every table had a box of matzah. I don't eat kosher, but God forbid I'm not going to eat bread on Pesach. That sensitivity, unfortunately, has waned because they saw the unbelievable amount of effort of their parents or grandparents that they put in Pesach preparation, that led an indelible impression on them. Today, unfortunately, we don't have that. See, basically, I'm a Reform rabbi. My job is to reform Jews to Judaism and not Judaism to Jews. And South Africa was a blessed gullus, probably the finest gullus, because they weren't, I hate to use the word cursed, by Reform and Conservative. And they all came from common backgrounds, Lithuania, even though many were not observant. I call them Orthodox, not observant, but they were Makir, and they were Mechabed, a Talmud Chacham. They had an appreciation for Torah. They even to such an extent that they wouldn't miss a shir on Shabbos, even though they had to drive there, But again, their children, many of them have become very full. I mean, we have, I'll tell you a personal story. I remember when we first moved to South Africa, I wasn't Rabbi, we lived in Yeovil, right? Palatine
with
Place.
With my mother, yeah.
Palatine Place.
No, first we lived with my mother.
Yeah, then we lived. And a guy knocks on my door. We had, thank God, an open home. My wife, to her benefit, to her reward, a guy knocks on my door on Friday. He says, "Does he have to wear a skull cap?" He told me I said, "Look, I don't know who's coming for dinner, but whoever's coming, gonna wear skull caps." Anyway, eventually he met his wife at my.
No, I made the shidduch.
You made the shidduch. It's
yes,
he became eventually.
He's a Rosh
the Rosh Kollel by Yisachar Meir.
Yeah, in Netivot.
Yeah, massive Netivot, the massive Talmud Chacham. And here's the kid, he probably learned how to read Hebrew. He must have been 20 or 21.
So we asked someone from Emmerich.
Barry Zard had left him.
He was doing a BSc degree at Wits, and someone from Emmerich, and they were in the same class. And I said,
he taught him how to read.
Yeah, so Shmuel Burns, and so he said, sure. So I said, could you teach him?
His name was Stephen. I doubt if
and then
children know his name is Stephen.
Showed him how to put on tefillin.
Tefillin, never seen it before.
And then he started wearing.
And thank God we have a number of these stories of success.
His father was the head of the reform.
We have a number of these stories of success. I'm proud of what I accomplished, but I probably could have done more. And that was it.
But Rav, can I ask you, going back, do you remember the survivors coming to America after the war?
Even in the Bronx, in a shul, I remember we were kids that men with the numbers on their arms. I remember one particular gentleman, I forget his name, and he told them he escaped the camp, but I'm not a hero. I thought I'd be electrocuted, but the gates, the wires weren't working that day, so I made it. We remember people. The Satmar Rav said when he left Israel, he was asked by Chassidim, whom should they go to for a bracha? You know the story? And he said, when you go to shul, you see a man with numbers on his hands, ask him for a bracha. Ask him for a bracha. He'll give you a bracha. Today, unfortunately, as time goes by, we lose sensitivity to many of these things, and people don't know. People don't know. It's how to perpetuate these memories, how to perpetuate this history. I really don't know. Even
your kisha with Rav Kotler, you had a.
I remember Rav Kotler very well. Matter of fact, his son was at our wedding.
Yeah,
here he is, someplace.
Yeah, he is at the table. I'll just 1 second.
Reb Shneur Kotler.
Yeah. Okay.
There he is.
There he is.
That's right. That's
and
it.
That's Yankov Neyman.
That's
my
Yankov
brother.
Neyman.
And that's Shneur Kotler. and that's Chaitya, my
Rebbitzin,
sister.
if you can...
Okay, okay.
People...
So my
And Rav Kalmanovitz, you remember?
I've seen him. He was Rosh in the Mia in Brooklyn. I remember the first funeral that I attended at night. I must have been 18 or 19 as they were bringing his coffin to the airport. You know, it's the era, very simple. The rabbinical giants of America were all Europeans, but they understood America. It's a different culture. Here, unfortunately, I hope you don't mind, I hope you take it out, they aren't Europeans, but they wish to bring certain aspects of Europe here.
There's a difference.
What?
There's a difference.
It's a difference.
Do you remember, well, you were too young, but the March of the Rabbonim.
March of Rabbonim, we didn't know until recently. We went until recently. We never knew it. My father was participating.
He was one of the Rabbonim?
He's one of the Rabbonim. I have a nephew, a computer genius, and he picked it up. He never spoke about it. We never knew about it.
He was in that
well,
march?
they were little kids.
So once he before we were born.
That march in Washington of the Rabbonim,
1942, 43, Rabbi Eliezer Silver was the head of it. Rabbi Eliezer Silver, Rav Kalmanovitch, they were the head of it. You know, my father participated in that march.
There was one of the only protests there was in America against what was happening in Europe.
And they weren't successful at all. Roosevelt didn't come out even to greet them. And, Roosevelt became the star of the Democratic Party, was the Jewish party. Not any longer. Things changed, and we must have been...
But your father was one of the Rabbonim?
Yeah.
What they did stands out in Jewish history. It was an amazing thing.
Yeah, but they didn't accomplish anything.
They accomplished that they stood up.
There was a stand.
They took a stand.
Yeah.
They took
what the Rebbitzin says, it's true.
Yeah.
They took a stand, but look.
I think it's incredible what they did.
The Jewish community, the ones that were recognized as being the heads of the Jewish community were basically all secular or even anti-religious, the establishment. Today, our strength is that we're no longer subservient to the, in quote, establishment. You don't do the way we do, we make our own, because thank God economically we are stronger. And with economic strength comes independence, and so so we have to be reckoned with. And you see the same thing in American politics. And America's also changed because of the strength of the Muslim community, both politically strong and the motivation, the generators, finance. They have the money.
Rav, can I ask, how come your father never told you that he participated in the march?
He was just
he never told us.
Bit of an introvert. I would say like an introvert. He'd want you to talk to him, and he'd ask questions, but he never came forth with anything. He'd ask me, "What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you learning?"
No, my brother.
But he would never like...
I have a mishpacha in Bnei Brak Yamnik, a well-known family. So he came to America, I'm talking about who knows how many years ago. He tells the story, so he met my father, he didn't see his brother. My sister got married here the first time he came to Israel. And hello, how are you? He said in 5 minutes, and before he knew it, he wasn't there anymore. He closed the door and went back to his Gemara. It was a different world. It was a different world he had a different value system. If you close the...
Rav, I just have to ask you, Rav, which shuls did you daven in when you were growing up? Which
my father had a shul.
So he davened.
My father was a Rav.
Most of his kehillah, were they from Europe?
Everyone was from Europe then.
They were all
Europeans.
They all came from the Bronx.
In
the Bronx.
In the Bronx. In the Bronx.
And how did you know the Valkin family? Valkin?
We know the name. Valkin, the Rabbi Valkin, that person, he gave a hechsher on one of the well-known brands, I think, with Stumas, I forget what it was. The Bronx had very chashuv rabbonim. In 1940, 1950, there were no...
Hollander lived around the corner from where they did.
Hollander was American born. Hollander,
he lived around the
Mount
corner.
Eden Center. Matter of fact, his father is buried in Schenectady. I used to pick him up. There were no American... There are very few American rabbonim besides young Israel rabbis. They all came from Europe. They all came from Europe. One of the generators of the resurrection of American Jewry was people that came after the war. The Shevet HaPleita came after the war. But in the 20s and 30s, the Jewish world was being managed, and they had the voice of media and the politics by very secular or anti-religious. The Bund, the Forwards, they used to make marches on Yom Kippur.
The dinner, the Bund had the annual dinner on...
Do you know what? South Africa was saved from all this.
South Africa...
We grew up in, I'd say, in a very traditional. The shuls were all Orthodox. You went to the Yovel Shul, the Berea Shul, the Beis Medrash HaGadol. I remember going to Bnei Akiva Shul.
So
there were no mechitza problems. Definitely today also there are no mechitza problems in America, because the conservative and reformed temples they are practically empty today. Unfortunately,
but there
their children...
You never saw a kapot. My father wore a kapota. He was the only one in South with a full beard. That picture that you see in front is from a passport, because we didn't have pictures of my father.
So Rebbitzin, if you could speak a little bit about your family, Aronovitz family, how they came to South Africa, and a bit about your parents.
It's a long story, but if you're willing to listen.
Sure, absolutely.
My father was in Baranovich. It's a second marriage of my father and my mother. He came to... How did he come to South Africa? He was very close with Reb Elchanan Wasserman. And Reb Elchanan went to America to raise money for the yeshiva, and my father came to South Africa to raise money for the yeshiva. And but then they said, there's a war that broke out. Don't go back. So, and where were all the Jews in South Africa? In Dolfontein. So he stayed in like a boarding house or whatever they did, rented out a room. And Reb Elchanan was told that as well, but he went back and he got killed. So, but there was no cell phones, or what are you doing? What should I do? So he said, what should I do? And he just stayed. And then after the war, he tried to make contact with his family, and he found out that the whole town was wiped out. His wife and all his children, except Chaitcha, the eldest one that was married to Yaakov Naaman from the Mir, and the whole Mir yeshiva decided they're going to Shanghai. He said, some Meshugana said, let's go to Shanghai. Well, why not? They ran through a forest and they went to Shanghai, and they lived there for 5 years. They were married. She was the only survivor. And from there they went to Chicago. Then they went to America. And could be this Sagura who was making passports, so he did everyone's passports there also. I don't know how. But from Japan they went to And my brother-in-law, Yankov Naaman, now they were much older than me. See, that was my father's first marriage. He said they cut a potato in half and they made the seal from a potato and they stamped everyone's passport in all. He said that's what he was busy doing. Him and he said two others, I don't know who they are. And then they came to Chicago. He was a Rav in Chicago, also in Odessa, sure, for many, many years. And but they had 2 or 3 children born in Japan.
In Shanghai?
In Shanghai. I think it's 2 or 3, I'm not sure. So already 2 have gone. One was Rev Naftali Hirschfeld's wife, and the other one's Soki. These women were born in Shanghai. So so I first met her. So that's how did I come to America? I grew up in Yeovil. My mother, Oliver Shalom, said to me, I want you to meet the family. And
how did your mother come to South Africa?
So how did my mother come to South Africa?
If you can just show a picture of your father.
Okay, so this was my father from a passport. That's the picture we have from a passport.
And he was the only
survivor from that town.
But in South Africa, he was one of the only
one who
had a beard.
Full beard. He always wore, he had a big yarmulke that's like, and he had a capote. So you couldn't buy a capote. He used to go to a Jewish tailor who made him, a pants or pants, but a capote.
They're called frocks.
For Shabbos. He had one for Shabbos and one that he wore during the week.
And which kahila was he involved in?
He was a Rav also in the Braamfontein shul, because we lived in Yeovil, and he was going to go back and he'd sit and learn, but then the war broke out and there's nothing to go back to. He in the Braamfontein shul, so there must have been Yidden spread out, because there was who married my father, Rav, my parents. Rav Kosovsky, so there was a Rav in each shul. So Rav Kosovsky, and you're talking 1946.
It was straight after the war.
After the war. And my mother, so how did she come? She was living, her own mother passed away when she was 12 years old, and she had 2 others. There was a baby of 9 months that she looked after, and her 3 brothers that went to yeshiva, and her other sisters, and her other sister. So she was the eldest, and she said you had to actually look after the house. There was no running water. You had to go to the river, and you had to wash the clothing in the river.
Which town did they come from?
She wasn't born in Stolps, but that's where he was a Rav, in Stolps, Stolpes. I don't know if I'm pronouncing. And her
lived there for a little while.
In fact, in one of the Sforim, they said the Chazonish wrote about her brother, who was the last Rav.
He was her uncle. That is, would be her Rav Ha'acharon Stolps.
And okay, so, but they were all wiped out. So she married her uncle, her mother's youngest brother. How did he come? So he came to South Africa with his sisters, I don't know, 2 sisters, and why? To escape the pogroms of Europe. There were, I remember growing up that on Xmas and on Easter Monday, we were not allowed out of the house. My mother would lock the doors and close the windows. And you had Venetian blinds.
I remember.
You could peep out of the window, but we were not allowed to go out of the house all the time, because those were... my mother told me there was blood flowing in the streets. The priests used to say, all your problems, you don't have what to eat, go kill the Jews. And they would rile them up, and they would bang down the doors, and anyone caught in the streets was just slaughtered. So you're talking about the genocide of the 7th of October. Okay, they didn't burn the house. Could be they did burn. They didn't behead, but they raped the woman, they killed the men, they looted the houses, and it was just... It was terrible. So and my father's sister, he was the youngest and was married with 8 or 9 children, also left in 1929 or 1930, also Europe. From Baranovich came and moved to Palestine then, and they lived in Palestine. And so she's got a whole family of more than 100. She died of at I think 103. And she wanted to be buried near my father. Interesting. They were living in Kfar Saba, but she said my father used to send her money, and that's how she survived. She said there was nothing to eat in Eretz Yisrael, and her husband used to, I don't know what they did, but she educated her children. Her sons went to yeshiva, her daughters, whatever they did. And then my father became a businessman, because when we moved to Yeovil, he couldn't walk to Braamfontein Shul, and anyway, he was getting older. The walk was too much, and I don't know how, he didn't speak the language, but he was buying and selling. I don't know, he bought buildings in town, he bought and he sold, he made a little profit, but it was all bonded. I don't know. My mother's, so back to my mother. So she was married, she married her uncle who came to Europe to look for a wife, and he stayed in his sister's house. But she was no longer, but her father, was there, and he said he wanted to marry my mother, who wasn't married, and he brought her to South Africa. But her father didn't want her to go to South Africa. South Africa? What's in South Africa? Rather die as a Yid in Europe. They knew what was going on, than live in South Africa as a goy. And but by that time, her father had remarried to a very fine woman, my mother told me, and she said, let her go, and she'll bring us all out. And that's what they were hoping. So she went, and she was married to her uncle, who they had a house in Dorfontein. He was in the meat or chicken business and cold storage, but she had 2 little kids and was pregnant with the third, and he got pneumonia. And he went into hospital, and 2 weeks later he was gone, and she was 6 months pregnant with her 3rd child. So she was an almona, what she did was, she put her children in her 1 bedroom. They had a car, she never drove, so she sold the car, and she worked in, do you remember Crystal Bakery in Dorfontein on Bate Street? And she had her little baby that she would put on the floor on a blanket, and the other 2 went to school. And she didn't keep a maid, and she used to clean and do whatever had to be done in the house. And so the little one, well, he's no longer alive. So he was named after his late father. His name was Kalman, so she named him Chaim Kalman. Okay, so and then could be that you also had like a boarding house. I don't know how my mother lived, because she had to bring up 3 little children. Anyway, so maybe she rented out room, but she wouldn't have if she was a woman. I don't know exactly, or she made lunches or meals, but someone must have made the shidduch. I don't know, between my father and my mother, and he wanted to make sure that he's one. And then he got married to my mother, who was much younger than him. And he saw how the Jews were already moving out of Dorfontein, so he bought a house in Yeovil, 3 Raleigh Street, totally renovated it. He looked after the 3 older children like they were his own, and Kanena Horo, he had 4 children. I'm one of them. But then he got a heart attack. So, and could be he just needed a stent. But they didn't know, so he was in and out of heart. And he was a strong, healthy man. He was the one who taught me brachas and Shema, and held my hand and took me to the park and took me to shul. And I adored my father, because he was like my whole world. And of course my mother was, there, but it was my father. I was a little girl, and there's 3 brothers. So early in the morning, he'd go to the 6 o'clock minyan, and I'd say, I want to go with Daddy, I'll get dressed.
Did he go to Adas Yeshurin?
Adas Yeshurin, sure. And
that was Rav Salzer.
Rav Salzer. Yeah. And it was like, not in you went down Raleigh Street into Hunter Street, a block away, a block and a half away. And So that's where he davened. But when he really got sick, there was the B'nai Kiva Shore opened up, like just mamish, he couldn't walk so far.
It was
right
in,
there. And
in Raleigh Street.
In Raleigh Street, where there was
the
mikveh. They built a mikveh, the Beis Din, and the B'nai Kiva Shul was also there. I don't know, they made a shul. And so he'd go and he'd say, all these youngsters, he had hope for the country because
it was Rabbi Bronner. Rabbi Bronner was
Rabbi Bronner was a Rav there. Yeah. So, but we went to Hadassah Sholem, but then we went to Yovel Shul. My mother, Oliver Shul, loved chazonas, and they had good chazonim. I don't know if you remember.
South Africa.
From Yovel Shul to Berea Shul.
Do you remember of the chazonim?
Chazan Mandel in Berea Shul. My mother loved that. And they had Chazan Stern in the Yovel Shul.
Yeah, he lived on
and
the
it was so full that they had like
they had
an overflow in the hall, and so did Berea Shul. They had a
Bagley,
yeah.
I have a.
So I grew up. My father taught me how to read Ivra. You know, there wasn't the books that you have with all the aleph bays and putting the vowels, the oisius with the letter. He was teaching my older brother. I mean, we were 18 months apart. He's teaching my older brother, but I was sitting next to him, and I just hopped like that. I think I was 3 years old, and so he just couldn't, you know, in a siddur, because the front page of the siddur had the aleph bays, and under it there was a line, and under it were all the vowels, and then it was more de'ani, and then that's how I learned how to read, not with, and also because you hear it. So then you could match it to the word. It's like sight reading. And that's how I learned to read. So I went to Cheder, but I could already read. I couldn't get over it. I was a little girl, 5. They were learning, but my father taught me.
And what school did you go to?
I went to Jewish government. So that's what my mother remembered. So she sent us to Jewish government. So we went on a tram with a 2-pence bus ticket. Do you remember the 2 pence? Yeah, and you bought it. Anyway, with my brothers, grade 1, that's where I went primary school, and my brothers, but when there was no religious schools, and then in the Cheder of the Berea Shul, I think it was in the Talmud Torah there, Rav Kosovsky started Yeshiva College. I don't know, with a handful of boys, I think, I don't know who they were, because I was little, but at the same time, and then someone donated land in Glen Hazel, and that's how Yeshiva College, but they said there are no Jews there. Glen Hazel, there's no one there, but they had the land, so we'll get a bus and we'll bus them.
One of the early Bochum was Nati Super. There was Shushad.
Sushad, that's right. Sushad was one of them, and then he went to Tals, and there were a few others. I don't know, there was a handful of boys, and they started in the Berea Cheder, and then the Yeshiva College was only a boys' school. So I don't know if it started with a primary and a high, the high school first, the boys moving from the Berea Cheder. My brothers went there, and there was a bus that used to pick them up outside our house, and it went from Dolphintine, maybe Hillbrow, I don't know, Berea, Yeovil, Observatory, Cyrildine, and took them, because no one lived there. No one lived there. It was like all vacant land.
Today
that's where the Jews live.
And do you remember Rabbi Lappin and Rabbi Eloy?
I used to go to Yeshurim on Shabbos morning. I used to go to...
He asked me to speak there. No one messed around in that shul. It was tough. I like messing.
I had my bar mitzvah in the shul.
Yeah, he gave shurim after shul, and I would sit.
His son is here, and
David.
David just recently in Ranana, and he's got a son Daniel that's in America, and he's got a sister.
Daniel taught me in Yeshiva.
Really? Okay.
And which other Rabbanim do you remember in Yeovil?
We were very close to Rabbi Eloy. I must tell you.
He was the perfect Rav.
He used to call my mother Oliver Shalom every Friday to wish her a good Shabbos.
I think he was the most loved rabbi South Africa's ever
He
had.
was. If my mother had a problem, she wanted to talk
Towards
to
the
someone.
end, he used to call me to visit him. He was the perfect Rav in America. He would
You
have
know
been
what?
killed
When I went,
by
I have to tell
$100
you.
bills.
Can I just
He
tell
was
you,
the
when I
perfect
went to
Rav.
America, he didn't have a car, but he was all over.
I once gave him a lift. He never had a car.
He never had a car.
Never had
And
a
when
car,
I went
never
to America,
was late. I had a car. I'd never been late, but people were there before me.
so he came to the airport to say goodbye to me.
Yeah, he was the perfect Rav.
Can you imagine? My mother, he came, because Chaitz and Yankov were there.
Can we show a picture of your mother?
This is a picture of my mother. And she didn't lead me to the chuppah because she had lost two husbands, and she felt it was not a good muzzle.
Anyway, mazel schmazel. Anyway.
So it was your parents that lived. So she didn't lead you to the chuppah?
No, but my sister and brother-in-law did. Yeah, Chaitz and Yankov. So she was my sister, the same age as my mother, and Yankov Naaman. They came from Shanghai.
And where were you married?
In New York, where and then Broadway Central, and then the hotel burnt down.
It didn't burn down. That was the hotel. It was years after we were married in Brooklyn.
How come you went to America?
Because they lived there.
No, they went to you.
Louis went.
Louis'
I always
wedding.
wanted to go to seminary. But my mother was afraid to send me because who do I know? And she has a little. I never left my mother's side. My brothers went to B'nai Akiva camp. I never went to camp. So I never went anywhere. Not on, sleep out, or you want to eat, you eat at home. You don't eat in anyone's house. We never ever went out to eat. Could be people, like my kids say, but didn't the Rabboni, didn't they invite you? Could be they did, and my mother would.
The Emmanuel
And the Emmanuel
family as well. I invited Reb Michal, he was my Rob. They came to our daughter's party and they brought their own food.
Well,
Which was,
my mother, I know, but she never went.
Yona. Remember Yona? Man?
Yeah, okay. So that's, it's just, my father never ate anything out of the house. Whatever my mother made, she made breads and rolls and jam and butter and cheese. And there was a Jewish farmer that lived on Raleigh Street, and he used to bring, the gallon, metal cans, a gallon of milk every day. And so Friday there were two, because for Shabbos as well, but it used to go sour. We had a small fridge, and then my mother would make cheese with it and whip it into butter and make the sour milk. Like you have Lebanon, you buy Lebanon. She would make that. Whatever you buy in the stores, she made.
For a small Jewish community, there are more kosher restaurants today in Johannesburg than most other cities in America.
It's so true.
Yeah, but you made everything. So
and Panama has 40. Panama, the finest Jewish community in Mexico and Panama. Panama has something like 40 kosher restaurants. People eat out.
We never ate out.
And which seminary did you go to? Did you go to seminary?
Yes, I did. So my husband said, so you'll get married and you'll go to seminary? Because I said, no, I want to go to seminary. I don't want to get married. So he said, you can get married and go.
My daughters run the biggest nunneries, seminaries in Israel.
What happened, I worked during the day.
She's the head.
Yes.
No.
Leah is, and so is Brocha. Brocha has...
They have 100 students at least.
No,
I don't know what they're called even.
Sarah something, Sarah, or I don't know, Brocha, she started a new one now, and Leah's is called Nishmas.
And she has many, many students, many.
Oh, from years, and you have no idea. She's made shidduchim and
tremendous following. They go overseas 5 times. She went last week
for 3 days. Spend more time traveling in the plane, but just for the
for a wedding, and they fly back and forth. $4,000
the ticket. I said,
what's the difference?
And I said, you're going to be exhausted. But
then I was Rabbi in Amaranth for all these
So,
years.
Rob, I have to ask, when you came to South Africa,
it was like a culture shock.
So,
I must tell you,
Rob,
coming
to South Africa, how did you react? Because coming from
America,
the Bronx,
the rough
coming
and
from
tough.
a European background, and
I didn't come from a
no,
European
but your
background.
parents and the shul
We
that
spoke
you're
English
from-
in the house. We spoke
was-
Yiddish
I
also,
must tell you,
but my mother
South
spoke a flawless.
If you look at all, I'm just talking generally speaking, and my kids who've gone to seminary in Yeshiva, there's an Edelkeit. There is,
Yeah.
and there's a refinement, and so
South Africa is a different world,
it
different
just-
culture.
I
Yeah,
found
we
it
were.
as a
I
culture shock
played
when I came to
I
America.
played in the streets. My friends weren't necessarily Jewish. We played basketball and we played all the street games.
So-
In South Africa,
I
you
went
needed
to
a
Breuer's
manager.
teacher seminary. You asked me which seminary. From 6 o'clock to 10 o'clock at night, every day.
Breuer's it was called, no?
Breuer's teacher seminary.
Yeah, at the Yek,
And my
at the
first
Yek-
job was when I got married at 18. Was when I was 19. I'm talking teaching job. I was working in an office. So as a teacher, was in base Miriam something in the Bronx. I don't know if it's still existing. There were
the
13,
was called.
12, 13 girl, 12 and 13-year-old kids. I was all of 19. They were almost my height. Chutzpahdik. They'd already gotten rid of 4 teachers. I was number 5. And you'd say good morning, Boker Tov. As there were 30 kids in the class, and I'm standing behind the desk, in front of the desk, just made Rebbitzin, laughing, sitting on the desk under the. Anyway, when the bell went, for the break or recess, they all dashed to the door, but I got there before them. I said, "Where are you going?" They said, "It's recess, it's break, I said, "But you've had break the whole morning. Now we'll have our class." They said, "No, we have to get out." And they're jumping in front of me, and I just stood my ground. I didn't raise my voice once. And they're jumping, and after 10 minutes, they saw nothing doing. I said, "Now we can have our lesson. So do you want to go sit at your desks, introduce yourself, I'll introduce myself, and we'll have our lesson." The principal came to see if I was still alive. He walked past the classroom, up and down, and wasn't a peep out of the classroom because they'd made a noise for 3 hours, and now they were listening, and I'm standing in front of the classroom telling them whatever it was. And then when the next day, break and everything, the teacher said, "What did you bribe these children with?" I said, "I come from South Africa. I don't bribe the kids." Now they do, but then they didn't. So I said...
Well, what school was it?
Beis Yaakov. And I was still going to seminary. And I enjoyed it. I loved it. Better than an office job. It's just something in your blood.
Principal in Shari Torah Nursery School.
And I taught in Shari Torah for many years, and I also taught at the Beis Yaakov.
Chagi Reuben was.
Chagi Reuben was there, but before that, before that, there was. Do you remember he started a Shari Torah? It was Selwyn's Skin, and Michael Carr,
Allison.
And Allison was taking out of his pocket every month to pay the teacher's salary. So we started in a house. They lived on Francis Street, and then they bought a house next door, which was Rabbi Rom's. So I was friendly with Rabbi Rom's daughter, Shana. And then they moved to the Yovel Cheder.
Rabbi Rom, Nachum Rom taught me.
Yeah, oh well, yeah.
And there's
Choni Rom
was in Senton.
Yeah, and
And they had a sister.
That's right, Batsheva. And
his father actually translated the Haggadah to Afrikaans.
Which is amazing. They got married in Cape Town. They got married in Cape Town.
Look, South Africa was a wonderful, wonderful goddess. Again, first of all, climatically, it's probably in Johannesburg,
beautiful weather, beautiful climate, and
weather,
the
the lifestyle was so much easier because you had living maids,
in America I was out coming from South Africa, they rush past you, they knock you down.
Yeah,
no, excuse me, no, sorry. It was just
like a more competitive society.
I don't know about competitive. It was
Jews,
just like,
excuse me, Jews were successful in South Africa for a very simple reason. There was under apartheid, the blacks were blacks. The Afrikaner was a Buddha. The English speaker was he worked for the government. He was only into his 4 o'clock tea, And along came a Yid. He didn't speak the language. He had to make a living, so he started, what did they word? Smoozing,
All property, look at Chapman and my father. How did we live? How did my mother support us?
Therefore, the competition was so much less. In America already, the competition and
the ones that go-getters made it. It was.
You needed like capital.
His mother never worked.
She did before she was married.
No, before she. I'm just saying after she was married.
No, my mother never worked.
I said
today it's normal for a couple to work. My
mother never worked.
Your mother never worked.
That whole didn't work until my father died.
Yeah,
and
fine, but that was the norm. Today it's the norm because of the cost of living. The cost of living requires that a couple works. I mean, especially the from cost of living with school fees. In Israel, they don't know of this. What do you think it costs even today in South Africa if you have medical aid?
The school fees and the medical
forget about medical aid.
It's a fortune.
What you made in. What you pay today, medical aid, if you in 2 months, if you made that in a year, 40, 50 years ago, you were very well off.
That's so true.
The things have changed. Can
I ask, when you came to South Africa?
Okay, so I must tell you, it was Rabbi Loy that found his first job. It was over Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
No.
It was in Velcom. North Cliff
Rabbi Casper once called me up because I spoke in Berea. In Berea. When I go to Blairgowrie
that's right,
on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, I said, how can I go to a place that I can't pronounce?
Right.
I remember it was in a tent in a marquee that
in Blairgowrie, that's in the north.
Lawrence Sandler. Did you know Lawrence Sandler? We're still very close friends. I go to New York, we go out together. And then we were invited to Rhodesia today. Zimbabwe twice, I think, went there.
We went once. They wanted you as a Rav, and then
where in Rhodesia?
It was
Salisbury, Harare.
In Salisbury, they had a Sephardi shul and an Ashkenazi.
There was an Ashkenazi.
No, in 1970. In 1970,
there was Dr. Rosen. Was the head, so I was introduced to Dr. Rosen. I got all the hits. So I'm Mr. Rosen. I didn't know that. In England, the surgeon is called. In England, the surgeon is addressed as Mr. I didn't know. It was a different world.
My wife's family's from Salisbury.
Bulawayo. He comes from the Dr.
Oh, that's right. Shlomo Levine.
Do
you know that he told me that only his mother and the Rebbitzin were the only ones using the mikveh?
I don't know, but it was a different world.
It was a different world.
It was a different world.
In Harare as well, there was a Sephardi community. A lot came from Rhode Island.
That's right.
My wife,
and an Ashkenazi community,
which was separate.
It wasn't Harare then. It was called Salisbury.
My wife's from Salisbury.
Ask your wife. Dr. Cohn was the head of the Sephardi. His brother was the head of. There was a guy Jack Pelham. Do you know the name?
Sure, of course.
I mean, I think the daughter's a well-known opera singer.
At his house.
Jack Pelham made a reception.
You know what he said? There's so many forks and knives. What are you supposed to use?
He made a reception for us. He had the Israeli prime minister. Anyhow, and I remember they had these tall servants with tassels and red
You've never seen anything like that. Well, I'm
So everyone waited for me. I take the
and he didn't know which knife to use.
And I put the challah on the tablecloth. In America, no one used bread plates. We got to wash it ourselves. And I would never for this guy profession just. Then I'm very conscious. I asked which of the forks do you use first?
You scooped and put it in a bread plate. You didn't know the bread plate.
It was an easy life there.
They wanted you to be a Rav there?
Yes.
Yeah, I was offered a number of times.
And you went there over
No, we just went there. We went during
didn't go there. We went there for Shabbos.
We went 2 days.
Right.
And drove us around and showed us.
Yeah. Then I was offered to speak in Durban. He was there, Abner Weiss. No, hold it. So I check into a hotel. I said, what do you say? I said, check in a hotel on the beachfront. We checked into a hotel. We go down for dinner. You couldn't drink a glass of water. I'm dressed. Let's keep it nicely, informally. Must be a wedding here. People were dressed. This is what 50 years ago, more. So it must be a wedding here. Anyhow, the maitre d' come over and I removed my hat. I said, I'm paying the hotel bill. You're telling me how to get dressed? Anyway, then we couldn't drink a glass of water there. And then the next day I go to the beach early in the morning and I notice in the corner of my eyes, there's a note. In the box, there's a letter for me. I don't know where I am. Who's sending me? The management think I'll be more comfortable in another hotel.
Wow.
You know which one it was.
So I called up Abner Weiss. I said, so you know which hotel it was?
54 years ago.
You know which hotel it was? It was the King Edward.
That was a 5-star hotel.
Yeah. For 40 rand a night, there was nothing. Anyway, so I went to the manager. I said, look, I can't eat in your hotel. I'm not going to bother you. You don't bother me. The only thing, I want coffee in the morning. I like strong coffee. 6 o'clock in the morning, we funked on club, and I said to the man, do me a favor, don't give me coffee, don't be anything. Then, the first time in my life, I've seen you put the shoes outside. I could never buy shoes in South Africa. I wear very big, I can't buy another pair of shoes here. So I go down to the desk with my shoes. So he told me downstairs they polished the shoes. There's a mountain of shoes there. Anyhow, I said, how do you know it's my shoes? On the bottom, they used to, with chalk, they used to put the room. I remember I gave the guy a few rands, make sure my shoes get, So I asked Abner, so where you staying? Oh, you're staying in the Ritzy Hotel, And that even...
well, it was the first hotel that we came to.
Yeah, I didn't know one hotel from the other.
We came by bus.
We went by train. The first time we came on a train.
And we walked in there. There's
the hotel. I checked in. I didn't,
But the shul, it's very far away from the
No.
So we went there for Shabbos.
We went there for Shabbos in Berea. Today, there's also no Jewish community there.
They must have moved. They moved to Amsterdam.
They did. Those days I lived it. And now you can't swim in the sea.
I know. It's
you can't drink the water.
There was the Durban club, the Jewish club.
Yes, that's right.
Yes,
It was a small shul.
But it's not very little Jewish there, That's right. And Abner,
so we went
big,
to the
beautiful shul.
Like a pick and pay to see, what's kosher.
They had a kosher section there, I remember in Berea.
Cheese we got and
I remember I was invited by Smedish Hagodol when it was in Domfontein to speak. A massive shul.
And who was the Rav at the time?
There was no Rav at that time.
That was once, I think, the Berei Lechagi shul.
Yeah, it was.
Anyway, and Moshe Stern was the chazan. Empty shul. I mean, I was big shul, there must have been 20, 30 people, must have held 600, 700, or 800 people. But I was amazed. Moshe Stern davened as if the shul would have been packed. I spoke that night, I didn't even go back the next morning, I lost my appetite.
It was straight down Harrow Road, because we were staying with my mother.
Today it's part of the University of Johannesburg.
Oh, is it?
I've been inside.
Yeah.
Really?
They still have the
I remember.
What did they do with the Walnham Street shul?
Unfortunately, it became a church.
Oh, that's a
But they
church.
still have the Magen David on the top.
Yeah, look
I went
like
inside.
in Harlem.
A complete block. It's
Yeah.
In
an entire
Harlem,
block.
all the big churches, the Baptist church where he was, had a dream, they all had Magen David. So in Harlem was once a very Jewish neighborhood.
And where did you get your first position? In which shul?
In the
No,
Bronx.
it was a small position
When
in
he
the
got
Bronx.
married, he was a Rav in a shul
the
in
little,
the Pelham Parkway.
Pelham Bay,
Pelham
actually.
Bay. It was
Pelham
a
Bay.
half an hour walk from where we
Yeah.
lived.
It
And
was-
in the snow, you
I
touch
was-
in the snow.
Then from there, again, I didn't even go for the job. They went to Henry Book. He's passed away many years ago. They had a brother here, a doctor. I don't know if he's alive even. And he said, no, so he did me a favor. I never forgave him for the favor so I took the position. Then from there, we went to Schenectady, which was a large community. Schenectady.
So I'll just tell you the break in this from, okay, you were busy with your degree. I was doing seminary and finished. I was working during the day, and then I was teaching in the school and in the cheder of his. Then my mother, Olav Shum, I think it was 1969, sent us tickets to reinter my father. That's when Rabbi Law was involved. And from there, she said we should come to South Africa. And I was pregnant with my twins in 1960. They were born in 1970. So we went to South Africa, and that's when Velcom, I don't know who sent, you went to Velcom.
Velcom.
You went to Velcom on a light plane, where only 3 people could sit. So
It
you
was
did
a
the
gold
fine-
shipment from Velcom.
Yeah,
Remembers, I
yeah, and they
forget.
came and they said, please come be the rabbi there.
And Velcom had a large
and they-
Jewish community. We took an Anglo De Beers plane. It was a gold shipment. They got us onto the plane.
So we went there for a
That was
Shabbos,
that
and they
was-
came and
that was a
your
very
wife's
fine-
expecting we'll make you so comfortable.
That was
And
very- Look, I've
so
done many
But his
things.
sister was getting married, and so in Israel, and that's when you
that's
said,
right.
no,
I
I want to
remember.
go, and my mother said, you're so pregnant, rather stay, but you want to be with your husband. I didn't want him to go, but he wanted to go. So I had my babies in the 7th month
The
instead of the
Ultra
9th month.
Teshuvahs, we didn't.
Where were they born?
They were born
in the
New
States,
York. In New
the
York.
Bronx.
So when I
we
went to the doctor-
went to the sister's wedding. I didn't go to the wedding, nor did Jen go to the wedding. She went to the doctor. The doctor said, either you leave tonight or you stay here for the kids will be born.
Yeah.
And how right he was.
Because a week later but I didn't know I was having twins. I was seeing a doctor in South Africa. Both heads were down, and could be the heartbeat was one loud heartbeat.
They didn't detect it.
No. And of course there were no
And then
scans.
Then she gave birth, and I came home at
He
night.
almost fainted, 2 babies.
Yeah, again at night, the lights were on, no one answered the door, so I climbed up the fire escape. I don't know, you don't know what fire escapes, what you see in the movies, the television. I looked in the house, all the lights on, there were no bodies. I called up my mother, said, where, my wife ran away, finally. No, muzzle tough. I was taking a law course. I was doing a paper in one of the universities there, who knows. And that was it. Then from there we went to Schenectady.
So I had,
then we,
1, 2, 3. And the cab driver, because my in-laws, I called them because I said, and my phone wasn't working. I went next door to try, because it was an apartment building. And no cell phone, so I said, do you mind if I use your phone? My phone, I don't know, something's wrong. I don't know if they were fiddling with it, it can happen in New York. So I tried to get hold of the doctor, because I said, I don't know if it's a false alarm, should I go to the hospital? And then I called my mother-in-law, and she said, no, you should go to the hospital, we'll come and fetch you. So they got in a cab, and we went to and the cab driver said, don't have your baby in my car. I said, I'm not.
that was it.
And then,
the rest is history, as I say.
So, and that's because
But even in
we should have stayed, but we didn't, and we came to New York because he wanted to come to his sister's wedding. That's what it was.
But we didn't come to the sister's wedding. We left before. Because the doctor told her, either you leave tonight or you stay here. Anyway, And then...
Let me put on the kettle. Hot chocolate.
How did you return to South Africa?
Oh, so then he was teaching in the public school and he was studying and then he got this position in Schenectady. Meanwhile, I had the twins in an apartment. In my mother, Oliver Shalom, came and she stayed with me. 2 babies, Anyway. And
3 babies. I was
and then
also.
Then he got this position in Schenectady, right? So we went upstate New York, which is a 3-hour drive, a 2-hour drive upstate. And my mother stayed with me for 6 months to help feed the babies and bath the babies. They were in the incubator for over a month. Pesach had underdeveloped lungs. And Rachel was just small. She popped out first, and 3 minutes later, Pesach popped out.
Yeah,
and that's what, he just
and
followed.
Today they're all alter bobbers and alter Zaydas. Rachel is a bob of how many?
Kanen
Hora. I don't know myself. So Pesach's having a wedding tuck at the end of the month.
Yaakov, But it's just amazing.
Look, we have 6 married kids living in Israel, plus a single daughter.
And we've got still 2 children in South Africa.
Yeah, they're the principal of Sharito and the Beis Yaakov.
Yeah.
In South Africa?
In South Africa, My daughter's husband is the principal, and my other daughter's husband is the principal of Sharito. So of Beis Yaakov.
And Sharito.
And Sharito,
And they have kids here also.
And when did you get to South Africa?
Oh, so after Schenectady, we were there for 3 years, and then I had Leah a year later. I had the twins, and a year later I had Leah. And I don't know if you remember, but there were no throwaway nappies, diapers, whatever you call it. And
Stork.
No, it wasn't Stork either. It was your wife and the washing machine.
Okay.
So my mother got me a washing machine and a tumble dryer, and she says, well, what can you do? But you better get more. But then I said, Mommy, I'm pregnant. She says, in America, they make everything quicker, bigger and better or something. Anyway, and then a year later, and I had 3 children. And then when we went to Schenectady, I got pregnant with another. So I just couldn't cope. I just said to my mother, then we came back to New York, and I said, could you send us tickets? And we're coming to South Africa.
Her mother used to stay
and I came with 4 babies under the age of 3.
When her mother was there, she'd be on a train. She was petrified. Because the blacks were in the same car, She was accustomed to South African. But South Africa was a unique country.
What year did you come to South Africa?
1970.
1970, so it was
wait, just 1 second. 69, and no, then we came in 74.
First of all, under the Nats.
74, 75, I think, and then you went to Benoni for 3 years.
So you were the Rabbi in Benoni?
That's right, for 3 years.
3 years, I think. Yeah.
Today, Benoni's, they're closed.
There was a day school.
Raf came from Benoni.
Raf was from Benoni, and others are from Benoni.
Many Rabbonim from today, from Benoni.
They were kids. They all hung up in our house.
So you McCarraved.
You have here next door, you remember Marvel Soda?
Yeah.
Beer. He lives next door. Also, I captured his home. Yeah. We talk about
they all stayed. And Welcher.
The Welchers.
Welcher's father was.
She went to Bible quiz.
Welcher's father was from Kletsk. He was a Kletsker. He knew Rabbi from Kletsk. Welcher's father. He once told me he's from Kletsk. I'm very politically correct, so you talk a lot of rubbish, man. I opened up this, who's this? Said, Dr. Steyer. He knew him. Rabbi was from Kletsk. He was the Kletsk. Welcher's father was from Kletsk. He lived in Springs or Breckpan.
And you were for three years in Benoni.
And from Benoni we went to America.
Kanak is from Benoni.
Kanak, sure.
Right.
His son is Rosh in Osameach. He's a top Rosh Yeshiva.
He's my patient.
Is he your patient?
And also he had
he remembers, he told me that You took him for his bar mitzvah to Rabbi Kasper.
It was him. I remember. He was Kanak, Sakanovsky, and Dr. Levine. There's from Dr. Levine today. And I took him to Rabbi Kasper in Wall Street.
To taste
so I told one of the guys, aren't you embarrassed as the chief rabbi? His office was the size of 2 telephone booths.
Yeah.
He was a bekovedik person.
There was an aura. When you saw Rabbi Kessler, there was a...
And he was quite a Talmud Chacham. Except later, I seen he translated one of Mishnayos in Zoram for the Blackman Mishnayos. I don't know if you know Blackman. Today, it's it's all art scroll. I was an art scroll from the beginning. The guy that ran art school is Meir Zolotowitz. He started art school.
Yeah.
My wife never forgave him.
No, he was an artist.
No, but he started, that's why it's called art school. He was an artist.
He was an artist.
Yes.
He was an artist. I was at his first wedding. My wife never forgave him. You know why? He printed our wedding invitations.
From art school.
Yeah.
No, it was a friend of his. And he said, I'll do your invitations. And how do you want them? And he was the one, how did he start? He was very close to Reb Moshe Feinstein. And at someone's yahrzeit, I don't know, he said he's going to put out a sefer.
No. He's the first. I remember Meir Zolotowitz. I always thought he was older than me, but he's passed away. No, he was 1 year younger than me. Meir Zolotowitz was a graduate of yeshiva, but he went to Pace. I know here in the States, we used to go to university at night. And he was an artist. That's why it's called art school. So he started a business.
But his first sefer, he told...
I'll tell you. So he used to make for scrolls, for industry, for institutions. He got a little bigger. He hired an Indian guy, interestingly. He was a deaf mute. So once we used to go to the office, I was smoking. He told me an interesting story. He needed an extra hand. Guys came with the most wonderful portfolios, So he wouldn't hire them because he knew in 2 weeks they'd be in competition. He had this Indian on a student's visa. So, competition. The guy was good. And the first book that he came out was on Megillas Esther.
Yeah, it was a Megillas Esther. Yeah.
He was beyond his dream that will fly off the shelf.
It was very successful.
And then that developed
and then he went on
developed it. Right. But the one that knew him...
But they encouraged him. He said Reb Moshe was...
The one that was very close with David Feinstein and David Cohn and Rav Gifter and all of them, First, it's he's changed Torah learning.
It became accessible.
Right.
You could open art scroll siddur.
I mean, every shul, even Chassidish shuls, they have the art scroll Gemaras. I was involved in the first Gemara. So if you're nice and you'd be nice to me, my name is there, I'll give you an autograph. I won't charge it too much. It's an art scroll revolution.
It was a revolution.
Yeah. And they printed, I don't know, hundreds, thousands of the kid. He's passed away. The kid, I don't know his children.
It's still going very well. Art scroll.
Oh, my goodness, on everything.
Yeah. I use art scroll every day.
And the Siddur, from the Siddur to Helium.
And the biographies. Some of the biographies are a lot to be desired, but some are excellent.
Incredible.
The one that Jonathan Rosenblum did on Reb Yankov Kamenetsky is an excellent piece of work, and Reb David Feinstein, that's perfect. Others have all told me they should use that as a mussar safe. Yeah, look, very simple. We have a tendency to knock the previous generation. Sansino, the Sansino Gemaras, there was an unbelievable accomplishment.
That was
the Gemara can be put in English. Yeah. Sure, art scroll is better, but it's a different world. I went the other day to a Sforim store near the Mir Yeshiva, the big Sforim store, not a gift shop, a real Sforim store, 2 levels. It was busy, not art scroll type of stuff, but scholarly Sforim. First of all, people didn't have money 50, 60, 70 years ago.
Right. Now there's a Sansino Chumash that is from Cohen, from Durban.
Really?
If you look, you'll see Cohen, the Durban edition
he donated
from Durban.
the money.
Yeah, and it was a very well translated.
Adler, even the Adler Chumash. Definitely, it's been improved. It's a different world, man. You know, Adler had Chief Rabbi Adler. He had a bad run. He was a part of JTS, Jewish Theological Seminary. Now, people don't realize when he went to JTS, it was an Orthodox institution. Today, JTS is a part of the Vatican. It's no difference. If things have changed, there was a new language. Who spoke? What, in South Africa, 1930, how many Jews spoke English?
That's true.
And if they did, they didn't speak English. They spoke. And if they spoke English, it wasn't English. It wasn't English. It was the English.
There was in Yeovil, there was the Yo Street, the Greener Shul.
Yeah, the Greener Shul.
But I never went there. I didn't. I heard about it.
It was Reb Chaim Shem later.
He's passed away many years ago.
I remember Reb Chaim Shem.
His brother's a doctor. He's probably still in South Africa.
Passed away first,
That's right.
He got remarried in Gateshead.
He remarried in Gateshead, right?
She taught him.
So Reb Chaim Shem did something very unique. He did Torah Chizuk, an organization where a visiting Rav would be shared with all the different kenas.
Oh, wow. So
and
that's what
he has a daughter in South Africa married to...
at the Kollel.
And Rav, were you involved with the Kollel at all?
Oh, yes. There was Rabbi Shakovitsky. And he came out at the same time they started the Kollel, they started Chabad. You'd never heard of Lubai? I grew up in South Africa. What did you know? You heard of the different B'nai Kiva, Habonim, I don't know, whatever that we didn't go to. But you heard of it, but you didn't hear of any Hasidim or Sfardim or anything. Then when they started the Kollel, that I think Ivan Ziskin was involved in, and brought in Rabbi Shakovitsky with his wife, and they had a house in Observatory, and
Urania Street.
They had a Koppelbacher's house.
That's why it's called Yad Shul. His father.
It was his father's house.
Even a couple of that Fabrenta, the Babas.
So all the shurim. Oh, really? So all the shurim were there. And so you used to come from Benoni? No, from Yeovil first?
No, when we lived in Yeovil, before I was rabbinating, before I was foolish enough to get back into rabbinating.
It was the Kollel Yachol.
Right.
Yeah, I used to get...
And he was
I used to have big crowds.
And they had in Urania Street as well.
I'm talking about Urania Street. I'm talking about Urania Street.
That was where the Kollel was. So
Kollel has to be given the credit of the revival of Torah study in South Africa.
And can I tell you that David Aronovitz was there.
That's right.
Then. He hadn't started his bookshop, but I think he started in Urania Street.
They were selling books.
He started...
He worked for Frankenhirsch.
That's right.
And then he started with the bookshop there. And that Lubavitcher guy, he was actually there. Manny Khan, late Manny Khan, Monty Ehrenstein, they were all at the Kollel. And then,
people.
I think at the same time, Lipska came, Goldman came, there were a few others, I don't know. I'll tell you, Lipska's sister.
Weinberg also.
He's quite a heavy-set guy. He's a Shochet, I think. Groner. And he has mishpacha in Australia.
His father was a well-known grower.
We were good friends. I didn't know that there had to be,
His father came to Australia in the 40s.
So we were all good friends. We all lived in Yeovil.
Also Rav Kutztag's two daughters.
Right. I was good friends with Batya.
So Batya married Rav Kutztag.
Exactly.
And the other...
Groner
married...
he was in Pearl. He was in Pearl.
Kurtak was with J-Sup, and the truth is, if they would have
It was tremendous.
If it's on, I don't.
It's okay.
It's okay.
If it would have been uprated, it would have been bigger than Boston. I remember. No, really, is it on?
True. Yeah.
It's
No, but
okay.
it's true.
No, I want to. If you turn it off, I'll tell you. If it's on, I don't want to.
No, but it's
You
true.
must turn it off.
Okay.
So, Rob, you...
Karnak.
And then we went to Benoni. We lived in Benoni.
Miller, there was a Miller, also
Benoni.
became very from an attorney, he's passed away.
But Rob, when you came to Benoni, most of the people weren't so from.
There was no one. There was not a single Shomer Shabbos in Benoni.
There was.
Sorry,
The Ziskins are from Benoni.
That's right, Ziskin. But Ivan was living in observatory, and
Ivan is
Salwan
an
was also
architect.
living in
You know
observatory.
that Ivan is an architect by
Yes,
profession.
he's living in England now. His parents.
Ivan's very involved with the JLE.
Very successful.
Ivan spoke in my sister's wedding.
Really,
Very
you know that he used to
I
give
met-
Shurim at Witz
I met
during the
people.
lunch
I used to go
hour.
to the shearing.
I've had
That
people
were
come
amazing.
over to me when I was in Kennedy Airport, because I was sitting in the lounge in South Africa. Said, send me God. I said they were wandering around here, you know, backpacking, and he invited them for Shabbos. We had people for Shabbos. We didn't know who they were even.
So from that Kehillah, from that
From
Benoni,
Benoni, we went to.
but you have people like
Emerger.
Rabbi Bear,
Yes.
who became from...
Jonathan
Yes.
Bear. I mean, Bear lived next to the next building.
Yeah.
So I once asked Rabbi Bear,
Yeah.
how come the Rob was in not the most... It was a special Kehillah, but it wasn't the main Kehillah.
No, it wasn't.
And you know what he
You made-
answered
Yeah,
me?
what did he say?
He said something amazing. He said, you know, if you microwave one person, and if you save one family,
Yeah.
then
Can I
it's,
tell
you've saved Am
The
Israel.
world.
It's
Can I just
amazing.
tell
There were
you
others.
that?
Eagles
Can I
thing, there
just
was-
tell
I
you
forget who.
that all the kids from Hillel School, there was a Hillel School that was back to back on our property. There was a shul on that street. Our house was on, I can't remember the names of the street, and Hillel School was there. And we used to speak to Eric Raff, and he comes from a family of 4 boys, and he was in matric. He didn't wear a yarmulke, and then he started, and he was head boy, and they said, "What's the matter with you? What happened to you at Hillel School?" Because he started wearing a yarmulke. So I said, "Just never mind what they tell you. You just ignore what." But how did he become like a big chassid of the road? I used to ask him. They used to play ball we had this big ground. It must have been an acre ground. They used to play kick a ball and.
I was better at baseball than they were.
So he threw the ball and he said, "If a rabbi can kick the ball, that's it. I'm one. That's it." And then he said, "Could he come?" No, I asked him to come for Shabbos. Don't just, that was during the week. And he came and I said, "And you can bring your family." He said, "Can I bring my brothers?" I said, "Of course." So Larry was, the eldest was Larry, married and divorced. He had 1 kid and he didn't live too far. Then there was Ronnie, who got married to a Benoni girl.
He's passed away.
Yeah, and she remarried his wife. And
her
Eric
name
and Mark. Mark's
her maiden name. They were Benoni people.
Baden.
That's right.
He started the Mahasha, So when I was teaching in Shari Torah, Mark came and he said, he took over. Remember Rabbi Pfeiffer that was killed?
I remember Rabbi Pfeiffer very well.
Okay, so he told Mark to take over from him. Or I don't know how, but he took over the shul.
He took over, yes.
And then he wanted to start a school. So he said, "Can I see what you do?" I said, "You can sit in my class. I don't care. You want to wander around." And that's how his school started, by just walking around. And I said, "If you've got good teachers, you'll have a good school." But I don't know, Mahasha never ever grew. They have a magnificent shul. I don't know if you've ever been.
No, I've been in the shul, but the school's also doing well.
And they built a beautiful school. But there are 2 or 3 girls. A lot of people go, but like 2 or 3 kids in a class.
If they would combine the schools.
The boys' school.
Also.
They would combine the schools, but again, you can't expect.
There's a lot of
Everyone wants to
schools,
be
yeah.
king, you know.
And then-
Shnei Malachim Mekesa Echad can't be. If they would combine the schools, it'd be wonderful.
That's what Rav Kutztag once said, that we should combine
all the
for
schools.
secular
That's a
and
dream. That's not a reality. I agree with it.
Okay, so you know what? No, they did try. They did.
tried.
Because there's Hush
Can-
Lions
there's a lot-
and
there's a lot.
Nebach, you know.
But can I ask, Rob, when you were in Benoni,
Yeah.
so you and the Rebbitzin, you migrated a lot of people.
Our house was open, so I had all the
More
kids.
than Amaranth.
I didn't know. I didn't
Tell
know.
the story that he sent you, my criminal attorney friend.
Lorley Shane.
Lowly Shane. Tell
No, so he's a doctor. So,
tell
no.
the story.
So why did you leave
Lord
Benoni
Shane.
to Emmarentia?
How could
I'll tell you what
Oh,
happened.
I'll tell you why.
I was doing them.
Yes, you were giving a Gemara share every Tuesday
every
night,
Tuesday
and you would
night.
travel from Benoni to Emmarentia,
Which is quite far.
an hour's drive, give an hour share in Gemara
In
on
Emmarentia.
in
That- it
Emmarentia.
wasn't
Yeah,
too-
1 minute in Emmarentia,
She remembers.
and the small shul. There was a huge shul, and then there was a small weekday
you
minion
know
shul,
Emmarentia?
and that small shul was packed
I
with
think you
men that came in to hear the Gemara share.
They were-
And Rabbi Zanchik was before, and he said, I'm leaving. He went to Toronto, I think,
His
Canada somewhere. I
his
think
daughter
Toronto.
was in my sister's club.
Right. So he said, take Rabbi Rosenblum, he'll give the Gemara share. And that's how. So I went once,
There
I
was
didn't
a-
go again. An hour travel and an hour back.
There were those that were opposed to me because
No. So and that's for a year. That was
Emmarentia
the
was a
third year.
longer shul. There was a shir every single day.
In Emmarentia?
In
Every
Emmarentia.
day. On Shabbos we used to have two and three shurim.
Yeah.
On
There
Shabbos.
was a Rabbi Brook. I don't
I
know.
remember
Yes,
Rabbi Brook.
Okay.
He used to give a
came from.
Gemara
He
shir.
came from Eretz Yisrael.
He didn't come from. He was a European, but he was here.
learned in
He was here
He
in
learned in
Hebron in
Hebron.
29.
In
Hebron,
29,
that's
and he
right.
said, you know what
29 he
saved
was
him?
there.
Because
He
they
wasn't-
slaughtered.
he wasn't there that
No,
Shabbos.
why? It wasn't on Shabbos. It was during the
During the
week.
week,
He wasn't feeling well, so he stayed home. They slaughtered
It was
all those
Tarpat,
boys.
Tarpat in 29.
It was his only
And
during
he
her
gave
life
a
was
Gemara
learning.
share, or was it a Gemara
The Gemara
share?
share downstairs.
You gave a Chumash share, and I would talk to the woman.
And who took over from you in Benoni?
No, in Benoni, Mandelbaum.
But I didn't
It
know
was
he
Mandel.
passed away a young man.
He taught me at Yeshiva College.
I didn't know him.
I
to
think it was
be honest.
Mandelbaum.
And when you went to Emmarentia,
It was like, wow.
and how
Okay.
was the community?
It was, we
You
saw
know
a few
what?
hundred
You
people
couldn't
on
co-
Shabbos.
Do you know that on Friday night, if I tell you by the men, it was like almost packed.
You know how many people there were sitting on
and-
Kippur?
It was overflowing.
It was over 1,000 people. The youngsters
Yeah. It
used
was,
to sit on the floor.
you know, my kids, there were no seats. So they sit, everyone sat
There
on
were over
stairs.
1,000
They
people were
added
sitting
more
on Kippur.
chairs. They were sitting on the windowsill. There was a big
I
timber
used to
going
give
to
a
the
share for
Oren.
many
And there were
years.
kids.
On Tuesday night, we used to call it the Pussycat of the Week Club. And she was maybe Sunday. What was her name?
Sandra Sunday.
Sandra Sunday.
At King David's
She-
school.
she
She
was,
said, I get all my notes here. He said, I don't have to prepare my lessons because I've got all my notes here.
It was considered the Frum Shul, Frum Shul. We had all sorts
It
of...
You
was
had
the
Helena and Hillel Hurwitz
That's
that you still kept
right.
up with.
No,
Of course.
her father was Vic. I don't know if you knew him.
Ronan is still alive.
I know
yeah.
the mother.
Yeah, okay. Her
The mother
husband
Ken
was
and Hora
Victor.
is in a 90s.
Vic, he was
92,
very
92.
involved in the shul. He would have, if there was a scratch on the wall, boy, he gave you a mission.
And
There was Professor Levy that you came to his
Yes,
100th
Doc
Dr.
Levy,
Levy,
right.
of course.
Another,
And Arnold Katz and his late father
they were all,
Joe.
look, and Mr. Charles Dickens, was he in your cheder, Mr. Charles Dickens?
Do you remember Peter Kahn and Gershowitz
Sutner.
and Sutton? They all moved to the other side.
Mr. Dickens says it was the best of times and the worst.
Mr.
Hello.
Times, yeah.
Can I
They
call
could
you
have done
back?
more, Ransom Primary School is
There
closed
was a
Friday
one
after.
You had a cheder in
In
the
Ransom Primary
Can I
School,
just
7 in the
one
was
minute.
in
morning.
government school.
There was
Yeah.
a cheder I used to teach. from 7 to quarter
7
to 8.
in the morning.
7 to quarter
And
to 8.
kids would come?
Yes,
The Jewish kids.
Yeah.
The Jewish kids would come.
There was always
But then
a
I told
Seder,
them,
a model Seder for Pesach.
I would tell
for
them to come to the
years.
Cheder in the afternoon, but they said that we have sports.
Yeah.
I said, so come after your sports.
Yeah.
So then it dwindled, and then, then that closed because there were 90 kids at the Cheder.
And when
And
did,
then
when did you see the decline?
No, I just said that.
You know,
one minute.
Saxonburg, do you know?
Danny Saxonburg.
You know Danny Saxonburg?
Well, he's a student.
I remember his sister, who's a doctor. Do you know them? She came. I said, "Look, you look like you look like the mother of some of these kids." She didn't. And
she was 12. He was 6.
But they were.
She'd never been to Cheder.
So
they were in the same class, and I had to teach it.
Yeah.
So I said, if you don't mind, I don't mind. You don't want to go into. But she couldn't read other bays, and I was teaching other bays, and from there. The davening, and from there Chumash and the Parsha of the week and Kashrus, and and that's when I started.
Position in Yale University. He was there a week or two ago.
Danny. But the people from the Cheder, I used to invite for Shabbos, and they became Shem Shabbos and everything. And I said, "There's such good schools." That's when it dwindled. I said, "There's Yeshiva College." There's King David.
The thing that killed Emerenches, there were no apartments.
It was all houses.
It was
That's
all
right.
houses.
So
when they got married,
a lot
they
of
wanted to
youngsters
stay.
became very frum, so they moved to Glen Hazel, where they had apartments. That was, and it was a lot of people moved to West Park Cemetery and to Australia. And today,
how many years were you in Emerentia?
38 years.
38 years. Yeah.
We went from Benoni to Emerentia.
Yeah.
And you were there for 38 years?
Yeah.
So, Rob,
we married off 6 kids there.
So I once heard you on Chai FM, the Jewish radio station, and I must be honest, I was blown away. I couldn't believe your shir that you gave on Radio Chai FM.
I remember.
It was amazing hearing such. You gave it Dvar Torah. It was just incredible.
Chai FM, that's the guy.
It was a Jewish radio station that's still going.
Yeah.
Kathy Kayla.
Yeah, and you were there.
Yeah, no, but there's one guy that has his father-in-law Dublins. Anyway,
when you left Emerentia, did anybody take it over?
Yes, there is.
They sold the shul.
No, just 1 second. When they sold the shul, they bought a house across the road and they renovated it to make the shul because there was like maybe 60 people coming to shul in this massive shul, and the toilets weren't working. And the plumbing system.
Shul. It was
beautiful, but
beautiful
you needed money to maintain it, and they didn't have it.
Is there a million in Oxford today?
Really, I mean,
no,
okay.
There isn't. Just on Monday and Thursday and Shabbos.
No, that was the one.
Okay,
Rabbi Bernard, he was the rabbi. He was the perfect
we got
rabbi.
married in Oxford Shul. Rabbi Bernard married us.
It was like the shul.
It was the shul.
Yeah, that was the
Oxford Shul Hall was the hall.
That was the cathedral shul. That was, you know.
And today?
It's nothing.
Yeah, that's what happened. I used to have a hairline.
So, Rab, I want to ask you in Rebbitzin, South Africa was a unique place because people, they might not have been from, but the women were separate to the men.
And you know what?
Can I tell
you, they're from the people.
They were non-practicing Orthodox.
The kids that came to Cheder, although their parents didn't keep kosher or Shabbos,
they weren't the post.
But I started teaching them about kashrus. I mean, if I'm teaching them, and it's only an hour, it was twice a week or three times a week. It was Cheder, twice a week, Monday and Thursday. So I was just telling them about our diamond that we are sitting on that you are not aware of. I had them over for Shabbos, and rather than preach, you show them what Shabbos is, and they made their homes kosher. They've got their kids in yeshivas and seminaries now. Their kids go to, although they went to public school, they went to Sharei Torah and the high school. If I tell you all of them became from Benoni, all those kids that came to our house, all from. And the ones in Emerentia, all from.
A lot of them are from.
So it must give you so much satisfaction.
I go to Or Sameach. Have you ever been to Or Sameach here?
And you know what? I have to tell you one more thing.
I have a grandson that I try to learn every Wednesday night with him. Guys come over to me. I don't know. We were walking in Nachlaot, you remember? And a guy, you were with me, a guy, he ate in our house 40 years ago. He was a doctor here.
You know, there's a milk park, so of course, you want to spend Shabbos with us, of course, because they have a parent or something.
It was close to Emerentia.
Right, it's a half-hour walk.
Your colleagues, the Jaffe boys, their mother was ill and I never met them before.
They're all dentists. You know, Charlie, Jack. Yeah, okay.
She was the shotgun of one of them.
Of Charlie and Mandy Swartz. I said, take her out.
Alan Seamus is also a dentist.
I know, very well.
Okay.
Alan is a pain, I remember when he was Norman had a ponytail.
He was at the Rabbi of...
Right.
But today...
of Amos.
Of Amos. And Amos was also in your show.
He came there with Swartz. Alan Seamus is Marentia,
And today he's very from.
Did you know that Lynette told me, and her kids were very close friends with my friend. She said that one of Alan's daughter-in-law, so it must be a son, she just had her 14th child, Kanei Nahara, and came to the engagement of Simi. Simi got engaged, and they had a vote.
Look, the rule is as follows, ladies and gentlemen. Bees are attracted to honey, not to vinegar.
So what would you put down?
You got that's the formula.
Sure. Okay.
Bees are no preaching, no. Be normal. You talk Raf. I showed them that I could play baseball better than he, and they were good cricket players. So cricket's for sissies, for women, man. Bees are attracted to honey and not to vinegar. No preaching, don't knock anyone.
That's right.
And, we had guys came Friday night. I know they excused themselves. I know where they went. They went back to the pool to take a cigarette. I didn't knock them over the head.
I think that was a success.
I was a smoker, I understand it. After the challenge, a good Cuban cigar, the Tom Gan Eden.
But can I mention, that I think was a success, that the Rabbonim in South Africa, even though people drove to Shul, they were happy that they came to Shul.
Yeah, right.
And they made it very inviting to come to Shul. Right. It was a very pleasant experience.
And that's a big problem in Israel, there's no community here. I mean,
where are you? In Beit Shemesh?
No, we in Beit Vegan. There are communities, but they're very few.
Daven across the street. This is, for us, the most perfect location. First, my wife, thank God, could go shopping 18 times a day. That's when she's not busy. I spend most of my day across the street in Immer Shefa. I go now, I have a minion for my roof until 1 in the morning.
That's wonderful.
And there's a Dutch shul down the road.
There's a bus on the corner. What do I need?
And the women are upstairs and the men are downstairs and everyone speaks English, so I feel very comfortable.
I feel great that I don't have a car first time.
Well, when did you come to Israel?
About 6
5 years ago.
No, 6 years ago.
Was it a difficult move leaving South Africa?
No,
I've been wanting to come for a
Kasher Husham. Wherever you are, that's what you should be.
I love it, yeah. But I have, so I left my 2 children there, but I...
Oh, shame. You talk to them more from here. Even if you lived next door, you would have not spoken.
I'm very involved with my kids.
They have kids. Our children, they have children here.
So the kids get married or come to seminary or...
they have children here, even the unmarried ones.
And they stay,
The only unmarried ones are the Sussman-Stacker. All the others are married.
No, the Kolkos have a whole crew at home.
Yeah, but no here in Israel. And these are the only ones that aren't married because he just got married. Chaim Shalom just had a baby.
And
The Sassmans are the only ones.
Zevi and Yehuda.
And your daughter's married to Setzer?
Yes.
To
They
Michael's.
drive in Bad Vergan.
They're neighbours of ours.
Oh, they're
and
neighbours.
they're patients as well.
And they're darlings, hey? And the father for girls.
And the father, Sid, the grandfather, Sid, was our professor.
It's amazing.
And he was okay. I just want to thank you both. It's been the greatest chut in the world being here in your home.
Thank you.
And
That's so kind of you.
treating your kids and your grandchildren. I'm honoured. I really am honoured because you both are people that all of us should emulate. You really are. You're an example for all of us. What you have achieved and the people that you have influenced, and you've touched so many people's lives, and it's just remarkable. It's incredible. And you should just only know Nachas and Mazel and Brocha and Mevesrim. And Rob, when I heard you on the radio, I thought, sure, this is unbelievable. And being in your home has been absolutely unbelievable.
Thank you.
And hearing your story is just, there are no words. There really are no words. So I'm extremely grateful. And if I could ask you both if you could just give a message, because you have so much, not only knowledge, but what you've gone through. We should all just, if we can take 1% of what you've achieved, if we would all be, it would be amazing for all of us.
It was our really great honor having you here and discussing various subjects, past, present, and hopefully in the future. My message is very simple. V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. Full stop. Zeh yesod b'Torah. Don't label people. Don't preach. Teach by example. As I said before, bees are attracted to honey and not to vinegar. It was a pleasure being with you. Really, it was exciting.
Very and very informative.
Thank you so much. I'm so
very
appreciative.
informative. Thank you.
And Rebbitzin, your message?
I can just ditto that. Yeah.
Because I think that is the ultimate message.
Right. Thank you.
And both of you, well, you live that message. You really do.
Thank you.